On that very same building and just down the hall, there exists a completely different world as far as radio stations go. WMMS, one of Cleveland's progressive rock stations.
Starting at the corner of 9th and Euclid downtown, and he says to me, "This is Cleveland.
This is my city."
Get down, damn it!
And we're finally back.
Whoa, it's been a while.
It's been too long.
Way too long.
Welcome back to Stairway to Cleveland. That's Keith.
That's Scott.
And we have a very... We'll get to this guy.
A very special
guest. The legendary drummer, founding member of both the choir and the Raspberries. You might have heard of them.
Not exactly true.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Member of the Classic Drummer Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Can't take that away from you.
Yes.
Avid nature photographer. And Cleveland legend, Mr. Jim Bonfanti, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to get my fanboy shit out of the way first. One of my favorite drummers of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't told him that. I haven't told him that yet, but now he just found out. So, okay. But yes, I'm honored to have him down here in the Gold Top Lounge. And
it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, when Jim texted me and said, let's do this podcast, I was very happy. So thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
I did 2 jumping jacks.
Yeah.
And that's 2 more than I usually do.
And then my knees started hurting. So.
Your new knee?
No.
Oh.
His high knee.
Better than his weenie.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. All right.
We got a lot to cover.
Lots to cover.
All right. We got lots to cover because this man has a history in rock and roll. And we're going to try to touch as much as we can on most of it, Jim.
Okay.
Because it gets convoluted with this.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start at the start. 1965, you joined a band called The Mods.
Correct.
Which is kind of weird because the term mod hadn't really reached America yet. It was more of an English thing that was just taking off over there with The Who and things of that nature.
Correct.
So what was the gentleman's Dan?
Dan Klawan.
Yes. So he had a girlfriend that lived in England or something?
I don't know that part, but I can tell you that Danny was well versed. He was older. He was a little bit older than everybody, and he really had a lot of information that he got, which really for the Mods was pretty cool because a lot of the songs that we did, he seemed to have the edge, ahead
His
of it.
finger on the pulse.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly a lot.
Okay.
And so I can't remember if he had a girlfriend there. I don't know that that's the case, but he was definitely had his finger on the pulse.
He knew
what was happening over there, and
So that band started out. And what you guys were playing mostly covers and stuff at that point?
Yeah, and that band started, before I joined it. There were a couple different lineups, but Wally and Dave Smalley and Danny were in it. But there's another guy, and I can never remember his name, that was a good friend. There was a school band. It was a high school band.
So it's this Menor area?
Oh, yeah. They were all Menor High School people, and, that's what was happening. Everybody was putting a band together. You couldn't play. You had a band anyway.
That something's never changed.
Yeah, we still do that.
Well,
go ahead.
So that's kind of how that went. And then the way that went down was that the same time that the Mods were in playing and stuff out here in Menor, in Euclid, I was in a band called the Caverns.
Okay.
And I played with Bill Petty, Phil Okulovich, and Don Ressler. That was the band. And very similar bands, as far as material. Of course, again, probably very similar bands between 20 bands, because it was all about if you were into the British invasion, you were doing the same songs, right? Difference is the mods played out every week.
They had the gigs.
They played at Finlandia Hall in Fairport on Friday nights, every Friday night.
Really?
And then
Fish fries?
nope, it was just a room full of girls.
Oh.
And then they played at the Armory, Payne's Armory, on Saturday night, right? And the Caverns didn't play at all. We just practiced.
Sure.
And we had a manager, don't ask me why, but we did, and the mods had a manager, and somehow those two people hooked up somewhere and decided that they were going to put together this
super
group of the two bands.
Okay.
And we were going to have Phil. The way it was supposed to go was it was going to be Phil from our band and me joining Danny, Dave Burke, and Wally. Okay. And they were going to let Dave go, but they couldn't because, that was a high school band. They were, you know what I mean?
Sure.
They couldn't do it. So Phil decided he had a big hissy fit over it and he didn't want to do it. And I just kept thinking in my mind, I'm thinking, I got to do this.
Because get some gigs.
Well, yeah, it was like, that was part of it, but there was just something, that said, I need to do this,
Yeah.
And so I told Phil, I was at his house, and I said, you know what? I says, if you don't want to join, because we figured, well, we'll have 6 people.
Sure.
It wasn't like a big deal, know. We'll have a couple more singers. It's going to be better,
Sure. Harmonies.
And so I told Phil, I said, I'm going to join the band. I said, I'm going to go out there and join it. And I drove out that night, and I told him when I left, I go, one of these days, Phil, you're going to see my name in lights.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah, true story. And I left and came out, and because by then, Danny and I were pretty good friends,
Sure.
And hung around together a lot and stuff, and ended up joining the mods, and that's how that happened. And then when I got into the mods, Danny played drums, and I played drums too. But the good news is Danny also played massive harmonica player.
Really?
Oh God, yeah, really good. And he played guitar and drums, and he wrote. So what we would do is we would play like the Beatles or the Who or whatever, what we called the harmony songs.
Sure.
And Danny would play drums. And I would stand out front. I would play percussion, like tambourine, rock, and I sang harmony with Wally and Dave. And because Dave Burke didn't sing at all, and then Danny, and we would play that set would be that kind of material.
Sure.
The next set would be like the Pretty Things, Them, Rolling Stones, Yardbirds, stuff like that. I played drums on those songs, which were quite fun. And Danny played guitar and harmonica and sang some stuff. And so that's what we did.
That's awesome.
We just had 2 different kinds of sets, but that's how we did the thing. But yes, that's about when it started, was in '65. So that's the little short version of that story.
Well, let me ask you this then. Now, I know you're left-handed, and you've always played a right-handed kit. You use your left hand for your hi-hat, which is
very unique style.
Great style. I think it's great.
It's freakish, but there's more of us than I thought.
So did you learn that way intentionally, or did you ever think about putting reversing stuff, or it just wasn't a thing back then?
It was like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know that there was a left-handed or a right-handed drummer. I just knew that this is how I play.
Right.
Danny played like this. We never even talked about it. I mean, Danny's a right-handed drummer.
Yeah, so
I never said to him, why do you play that way? Why do you, we just didn't.
It's just natural.
Yeah, so, because it's like, I do some things left-handed, I do some things right-handed, and for me, that was natural.
Sure.
That was totally natural. And everybody played their drums right-handed, so I really didn't give it any thought.
Yeah.
And, one of my heroes plays exactly the same way. But when he plays out, he doesn't. Ringo Starr is a lefty.
Yeah.
He's a lefty. And
that's why his fills are always backwards.
That's all. I can relate to every fill. I never have trouble playing his fills because
it's natural.
It's natural to both of us, But now that would be a question I would ask him. So why did you play this way then? I mean, was it just a visual thing? Because because you got this. Maybe that was it. I don't know, but. There was a video on YouTube that I saw. He was explaining to somebody about his lefty-righty thing, and like he said, when you're like a left-handed drummer, you lead with your left hand,
Sure, it's natural.
To go this way. Is not the easiest thing.
No, unnatural.
So, like in Come Together, everybody thinks it's dun, dun, it goes this way because it's easier for you to go this way.
Yeah.
He can't go.
So it goes floor up the rack?
It's floor to first rack.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I mean, so anyway, that's that whole.
So Ringo, if you're watching, get a hold of Jim and explain.
Yeah, I got a question.
First of all, thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peace and love.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the mods. Then became the choir.
Yeah, we became the choir because the mods recorded "It's Cold Outside" in 1966.
So the mods originally recorded that.
Yes, that's who recorded it, and the label, because they were taking care of us, you know,
as labels do.
Yeah, as they all do, told us that we had to change our name because there was a band that had changed their name from the Modern Eras to the Mods. Whether that was true or not, we don't know. So we said, okay. So we changed our name to the choir, you know. So
It's a better name.
I don't know if it's better or not, but it is what it is, and that's how the record came out.
Okay.
But the band that recorded it was the Mods.
Okay.
So
it came out
as the choir.
But it was recorded at the time as the mods.
Yeah.
And that just
we went to Chicago to record it as the mods. When we came back, we were called the choir. You know, so like that. It went like that.
So that took off in the Cleveland area for sure. It went to #1 in all the stations around here. It went national number 68, I think.
Something like about that, 66, 78, something
So that's
like that.
great. I mean, for a local band,
sure.
I mean, and they called that what, garage rock at the time or something of that nature.
I don't think they called it anything. You know, I mean, they do now.
Right.
You know, but I think that it was just. You know, it's just what you did. You know, you're trying to get an airplay and, you know, all that stuff. All about the 45. Matter of fact, It's Cold Outside came out on Canadian American first. And when it came out and we finally heard it, the record, it faded out. And we're like, what happened to the ending?
Where's the end of the song?
Well, the reason that happened was because it's all about the records had to be 2 minutes ish in those days. I mean, if it was 2:10, that was too long.
Oh yeah,
you know, I mean, it was every second counted. So you know, that's what happened there. So, but then it got bought out by Roulette, and Roulette put the whole ending out.
Okay.
Now, do you remember where you were when the first time you heard yourself on the radio?
I was here in Cleveland. Yeah, we struck up a friendship with Jim LaBarbera.
Okay.
And he was on well, it was like WKYC, but I'm trying to remember what it was called. And but it was the 1100. You know, it was the big station, AM station.
WJW, was that
No,
it was
fact checker.
Yeah, we'll have to
insert here.
Yeah,
So our fact checker will put the information in.
yeah,
I'm on it.
yeah. But anyway, and he played it.
Okay.
And we got to hear it here in town. You know.
Yeah.
So
That has to be awesome.
it was.
Yeah.
You know, we were like 16, 17. You know, I mean, it was pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, when my band put out our CD and we were put on the end
Oh, yeah.
for local, whatever, on Sunday
107?
nights. Yeah, 107.9. I remember me and my buddy just were like, that's us on the radio. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, imagine that was the beginning for you. Geez. So, December 66, the release of It's Cold Outside came out. See, and this is where it starts to get a little convoluted because you guys changed members in these bands in this era. Like, you guys changed baseball cards. I mean, I was looking at some of the lineups.
It was amazing how many lineups there were with so few musicians. You know, I mean,
I know, it's a thing.
All the different combinations. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the classic lineup was Dave, Wally, you, and Snake Skeen.
Well, that was the first choir.
Right.
Yeah, that was the first choir. And what happened there is Danny and Burke ended up leaving the band on their own. They decided they wanted to quit. I don't remember. Who knows what it was about. But so we replaced Dave Burke with Jim Skeen, and obviously we didn't replace Danny because I just played full time then. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
And that was the first lineup of the choir. Then there were many choir lineups.
Yeah.
And they all changed, and they all kind of evolved with the music. As the music was evolving, you know, we evolved, you know.
Sure.
And as you bring in different players that have different styles, it naturally changes things, you know.
Right.
And there were some choirs that I really liked. I mean, just
Sure, you had some great players in these bands, man.
yeah, it was fun.
But then in '67, a local singer named Eric Carmen he tried out horribly for the band. Is that what he says?
Well, what happened there is we wanted to add a keyboard player.
Okay. And he's classically trained keyboardist.
Yeah, we started looking around for a keyboard player, and Eric had been around by then. And Eric used to come see the mods and that at the Armory and stuff, and he really liked what he saw, and he wanted to be in that band, So when we were looking for a keyboard player, he wanted to try out for it. And meanwhile, we didn't know Eric really that much, or of him, that much. But we did know Kenny Margolis, because Kenny Margolis played in the Rebel Kind. He had a killer lead voice, and we just kind of went with Kenny, because we just felt that was a good fit, and it was a good fit. And Kenny and I were, after Kenny was in that choir, he was in all the rest,
right?
And we just did a reunion of that last choir. Well, when was it? It was a couple of years ago now, I guess.
There was a 2006 reunion, but I think there was another one just a couple of years ago.
There was. Yeah,
because that first one had Wally. This last one did not have Wally.
The 2006 reunion that we did was the mods at the Beachland.
Okay.
And that Kenny played there with us.
Yeah.
So was he part of the one that was just at a few years ago at the music box?
Yes. That was like
that was recorded.
Yes, and that's like the last lineup of the choir. It was like at the end.
Okay. Because Wally bounced in and out of the choir there.
Once Wally left the choir.
He joined Cyrus Erie.
Yeah, but he was never back in the choir.
Oh, I thought he came back for a limited time.
No, he never came back.
Okay.
When he was gone, he was gone. But he was in Cyrus Erie. He was in Target. He was in all.
He was everywhere.
Yeah, there was a lot of bands he was in. Yeah.
Wally was a rubber ball, apparently.
He was in a lot of bands. So, but once he left the choir, which was, I'm trying to think of when that would have been because I can't remember.
It said.
Help me with your notes.
I'm looking at my notes. It says the choir disbanded in '68, the spring of '68, after Dave was drafted. Is that true?
No. Wikipedia. That's wrong. Because I can tell you this, because and this is how I know that.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, well, I was there. But at the very last choir gig, which was at the original Deepu's Tool and Die, which was not on the river. It was in the flats, but it was it used to be a Tool and Die building.
Sure. A lot of those things were down the flats back then.
It had a stage as big as this stool, in the middle of the bar. So the bar would go around.
Really?
So we were all on there with a keyboard and a piano and a Hammond. I mean, I don't even know how we fit on that. It was not big.
Hard to do the high kicks.
Yeah, so not much moving.
No.
So anyway, that was in like December of '69.
Okay, so you guys were still together at that point.
Yes, at '69. And that was the show that we played. That was the last one that we played. We were done. We were breaking up.
See, now here it says that Dave was drafted, but you continued the band with more of an avant-garde sound.
Well, what we did was, again, we were just, like Danny Kawan came back playing bass with a really good guitar player who's since gone, Rick Kaon, and Bob McBride was in it for a while. It was
it's a revolving door.
There was a lot of different lineups, but those latter choirs, like with when it was Rick and Danny. See, it was Rick, Danny, Kenny, me, and Bob McBride. When we had that lineup, we were a serious jam band.
Okay.
I mean,
right on.
I mean.
So the time,
20 minutes, it was the time. 30 minutes. It was the song would just go all over.
Something that got a DeVita type stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was that lineup. But in the end, it ended up being Phil Gilambardo on organ, Kenny on piano.
Okay.
Denny
bass.
Carlton on bass, Randy on lead.
See, I got that one.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. Which is the one that we just did.
See, it says did you guys make an unreleased album with that lineup?
We did, but then we released it.
Okay.
Just recently.
Just recently.
Yeah, that lineup released 2 albums. Amazingly enough.
See,
which was
it just took a little while. That's all.
Yeah, which was the recorded one, and that one was called Oh,
I don't think I have that in my notes.
Come on, help me out here. That's
Hold on.
It was released on Omnivore, correct?
right.
Okay.
Both of them were.
And I'm trying to think of the name of it, and I can't.
Yeah, I know. It's on the tip of my brain, too.
Yeah,
Rick, look it up.
yeah, but we need Google that.
Rick, our producer's on it.
Yeah.
He'll get us that information.
Why? Come on. And then we did the
live one.
the live one.
The live one.
Last call, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but that was really a good band. I mean,
Sure.
it was a lot of Procol Harum. That's
Oh, yeah.
what we evolved into.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway,
Artifact.
That's
There
right.
it is.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to
Artifact.
say.
And that was
Rick, I'm surprised you knew that.
Well, here's a
I know
little fact.
everything. I know it's cold outside. That's it.
It is too. It's only 41.
Yeah,
It's
right?
not that warm.
Here's another little fact about Artifact is that, so we recorded that album like in, 67, 8, somewhere in there.
Sure.
And we recorded it at Cleveland Recording.
Okay.
That was the only time I recorded in Cleveland. I recorded
Everything
there.
else was
Well, we
recorded.
did some stuff. The early, I think it might have been the mods or early choir versions at Audio Recording, which was in the basement of the Channel 3.
Really?
It's in there, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we recorded that album there. We did nothing with it, right? So we start to get together, and I got a hold of Omnivore and said we're gonna do this reunion thing if they'd be interested, and so on and so forth. And he wanted to know if we had any tracks from the album and that. And I said, well, we have some stuff, but he said, well, do you think if they happen to have the original masters? I'm thinking, we never even thought about it.
Yeah, right.
Well, as luck would have it, Cleveland Recording ended up being Suma.
Yeah.
And guess what was there?
Really?
The original tapes.
No kidding.
The original tapes.
In good shape and everything?
Yep. I had them baked anyway with a friend that's a good producer, Tommy Allen, who did some Raspberry stuff too.
Sure.
But they were in perfect condition. So Tommy remixed it.
Really? Wow.
And so we put out Artifact. And then when we played at the Music Box, we had a friend from Erie record it, Mike Miller.
Okay.
And then we sent everything to Tommy, and he mixed that. It's just a great. He needs a drummer, so my drums always sounded good.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a
Yeah,
great
it's amazing
guy.
how those drummers were looking out for each
Yeah.
other.
I'm going to interrupt you there, but I always thought your snare sound was awesome.
I'm very fussy about that.
Even in the Raspberries.
Yeah.
Now your bass, your kick drum kind of got lost in some of those mixes.
Well, in some of in the Raspberry stuff, yeah.
I'm jumping the gun, Scott. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
In the Raspberry stuff, yeah. But if you listen to Pop Art, the live version,
I have it.
it's there.
Didn't you help mix that, though? Didn't you kind of tell them exactly how you wanted your drums to sound in that
Tommy
mix?
mixed it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they
he knew.
sound amazing there.
Yeah,
but
Tommy-
that snare sound always was
Yeah,
cool.
because we
Had a snap.
recorded it. We recorded the first 3 shows. We did the first reunion show we recorded. Then we played again on New Year's Eve that year. We recorded that, and then we recorded the Scene Pavilion or whatever it's called now. We
I don't
recorded
know what
that
it's
one.
called now.
And so we had all those. We had that just recorded. We did nothing with it, and then I don't know, 5-6 years ago or something like that. We decided to maybe put it out. But what we did is we did not tell Eric, because Eric would have turned it into such a project because he's such a perfectionist, although he'll argue that with you. But,
I'm not a perfectionist.
So what we did was Tommy would take the tracks and he'd send me what he would go, here's the starting point of whatever song it was, and I'd listen to it and it'd be like, no, more of this, more of that, whatever it might be. And so we really didn't have a plan at that time. We just
wanted to do it.
We just thought we should do this,
Sure.
So about 4 or 5 songs into this, I'm listening to it. I'm thinking, this sounds really good. It finally got. And what I did was, prior to that we did Live on Sunset Strip,
Right.
Which Mark Lynette was the engineer producer, recorded us, who is known for the Beach Boys Smile CD. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we had that. So what I started to do is I forget what song it was. It was just could have been any song.
Sure.
I played the same song from Sunset Strip, and then I played it against Pop Art. It was like, it's like there's no comparison. It was totally night and day.
Really?
Oh my God, it was night and day. And I thought to myself, that's what the Raspberries sound like. We sound like that. That's the first time that I could say, like, that's how we sound. That's how we sounded. That's how it is. And so we went ahead and did all the songs that way. And then we were
There's a lot, like 28 songs?
somewhat. We did. It was the whole night. It was because that
night.
particular night we included some choir songs, that
Get some
Wally
covers in
wrote
there
and
too,
stuff like that. We wanted to try to give people an idea of like where this band started, where we came from, the roots and all that stuff. So. So it was long, yeah. But when we got towards the end, we finally sent Eric, to listen, and he loved it, and we ended up getting it and doing that. So
It's an amazing album.
I love it.
Man, is
I'm
it
telling
good?
you,
I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, it just kicks, and you can definitely hear.
Oh, you can hear it. You definitely can.
Yeah, and the energy. The energy of you guys doing those songs all these years later, is great. But we're jumping the gun.
I'm
Thanks,
sorry.
Keith. Jerk.
I'm sorry. It's all about the snare.
It's spontaneous. It's supposed to be spontaneous.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Let's get out of the choir era. Let's move along a little farther. The choir had disbanded in '69.
Okay, well, I didn't finish that story because he interrupted us right there.
That's what I do. It's my job.
So what happened? What I wanted to tell you was at that show was Eric.
Okay.
At DePoo's. And Eric came up to me and he wanted to put a band together. And at that point, I was like, I told him, I go, Eric, I'm done. I'm not going to play anymore. I said, I said, I'm going to hang up my rock and roll shoes, and I said, no.
Wow.
And so luckily for Jim, meaning me, all my friends were musicians who had no money. So I tried to sell my drums, but nobody had money to buy them. So I had them. I had to keep them, So I got a job at a place out in Newburgh Heights, I think it is, called Pattison Supply.
Okay.
I was the assistant claims manager.
Oh,
that's fancy. I was. And
Look at you.
I started that job. The first job I ever had in my life.
Right.
So I started.
How old were you at this time? Early 20s?
20, 20s, I mean, yeah.
Assistant manager at 20.
Yeah. Well,
it's better than being the assistant to the assistant.
Yeah,
that's true.
So anyway, I took that job, and the way that place was, you would go park in the back, and you came up. It was like a huge hardware store. They supplied hardware stores with they had all kind of stuff in there. So you'd kind of come up through the back into the offices in the front,
Sure.
And one day I was coming up, and it just was like, I think I had been there about 3 months, and I thought, I don't think I'm ready for this yet. I just think I want to play.
Those rock and roll shoes were still calling you.
Yeah. And so I came home that night and I called up Eric and I said, let's make a band.
Really?
And that was the beginning of Raspberries.
Wow.
That's how it happened.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
How it works. Just a calling. It's a calling, man. It really is.
I mean, and I was glad because I wasn't ready to quit, I guess.
Yeah. And thank God.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, geez. All right, so we're talking now 1970.
Yeah, we're in 1970, and what in 1970 from that point, which was in May of 1970, through that entire summer, Eric and I and my wife Barb, who was there, was not my wife then, but
Girlfriend?
Acquaintance.
Acquaintance.
well, I think
Friend?
we were engaged. We were engaged.
Okay. Fiancé?
Yeah. So I had a third floor apartment in a house down off of Euclid Avenue by Green Road and 20.
Sure.
Okay. Very
One
small.
of those big, huge houses. And I lived in the third floor. And Eric would come over literally every night because I was still working at Pattison. He would come over every night, and we talked for hours about the concept of what this band was going to be, how we were going to look, what we were going to play, how we were going to play it.
And you didn't have a band at this point yet.
It was just Eric and I.
Wow.
We wanted,
Foresight,
and we decided we're not going to get into the bar scene. We're not going to do that. We don't want to burn out. We want to write originals. I mean, the goal was to make a record. That was the goal. nothing else. You know, to play around here was merely to feed us.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So what we did was we didn't play any bars. We played high schools.
Sure.
Because 2 reasons. One was 8 to 11. Only 3 hours. Back then it was 4-hour gigs, you know. Sure. Anyway, it wasn't like it was either 9 to 1 or 10 to 2 in a bar.
No, it was 10 to 2 nonsense.
This was 8 to 11, done.
Yeah.
The other reason, they paid more. So, you know, we could work. We didn't want to work 7 days a week. We needed time to work on our stuff.
Sure.
You know, so that's what we did. And then, you know, we did end up playing. As it worked out, you know, we ended up the Agora, which was like the best thing to happen.
Cleveland Agora, we're talking?
Yeah, the original Agora.
The original Agora?
They called us up. I booked the band. We didn't have any manager because Eric and I figured we don't need a manager now.
Sure.
You know, at some point, but not now. And so I booked it, and the manager of the Agora called me up like one Sunday morning, I think it was, and said that they were looking for a band because the Plato, which was another college club, which was like a block,
right next door, wasn't it? Pretty much
like a block.
Okay.
Or so. He called up and said, you know, they took our crowd. We don't have any people here now. We want to try to build up Sunday nights.
Sure.
Would you be interested? I said, well, what is it? You know, he says, well, here's what we'll do. You know, and Sunday night was like a very, very off night.
Sure.
Then. You know, it's not so much now, but then it was, you know, he goes, we'll give you $200 guarantee against 50% of the door. I said, I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, so first night we made $320.
Okay.
We never made 200. And from that point forward, I mean,
capacity.
We'd make $1,000 there on a Sunday night.
Dang.
I mean,
wow. Can't make that now in some clubs.
I'm saying, right. I mean, it was like we made really good money there because the place was just packed.
That's awesome.
And we got to be really good friends with Henry LeConte, you know, the owner of the Agora, and to the point where we would play there on Sunday night, and we would leave our stuff up on stage, and then we would come back on Monday at 7 p.m., come into the Agora, they would lock us in, we'd stay all night, they'd let us out in the morning at 7, we come back Tuesday, do the same thing.
Really?
And that's where we worked out our originals and all that. Right there. And then on Wednesday, we didn't play. And then in the meantime, we stumbled on a place down in Kent called JB's.
JB's.
And we played there on Thursday nights. Another place was just full, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Which is where we debuted the band for the labels, was at JB's.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Brought them right there. And so we would play Thursday at JB's. Against the gate, you know, 50%.
Sure.
Killed it. Then we played the high schools on Friday and Saturday. They paid good. And then on Sunday we played the Agora. That was our week.
Wow.
Monday, Tuesday practice, Wednesday off.
There's your schedule.
That was our schedule. And we worked up the albums there and everything.
I did.
That's awesome.
When I was doing some research, I came across an interview with you guys. And you guys were like in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
And the interviewer asked you about, you know, Cleveland
What's on
and
the
stuff.
album?
Yes, 10 songs.
10 songs, yeah.
I guess what was
I was just talking to somebody about that. Probably within the last 2 weeks. I don't know why it came up. And the guy goes, so Jim, what's on this new album? And I looked at it, I go, 10 songs.
But now we practice every chance we get. You know, sometimes we know if we're really touring a lot, we won't get to practice for maybe a month. And then another problem that just entered into the picture was the club that we were practicing at burned down. And see, after the last time we used it, so we're kind of wondering now what we're going to do, you know, when we go back home.
To make a poor joke, it's a bad way of setting a place on fire.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So what's ahead when you go back?
We're, let's see, what are we going to do? I forgot. I think we're going to rehearse. That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And we're going to play on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then the following month, which will be April, we're going to do another album.
What's going to be on that album?
10 songs.
Okay.
You got a big pop from the crowd.
It did.
But the thing is, you had said in that interview that the place you practiced just burnt down.
Yeah, the Agora.
And you weren't sure what you were going to do when you went back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So it's just weird that you look back all that way.
That was they always, you say, things happen for a reason. And that was just such a plus for us to be able to have that, to work on our material.
Oh, yeah. Just think if you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, because it was just great. It was great,
awesome.
And and on the side, we got to be pretty good pool players.
Oh, there's extra money.
Yeah, so we were done, we're there all night, so you take a break and we'll go shoot some pool for 1 hour and talk about stuff and do all that. So
yeah. Now, the original lineup had John Alexi on bass.
John Alexi.
And he was only in there for a brief minute before Dave came back from Vietnam, right? Is that what he did, join the band?
Yeah, what happened there was John was in the band. I'm going to tell you the story.
Sure.
Okay. He was the original bass player. And we started the band in October of 70.
Okay.
Towards the end of 70, John quit the band.
Okay.
So
then John left the band.
Yes.
About 70.
End of 70.
End of 70. Then Dave Smalley came back from Vietnam.
3 months later.
And he came back, but he started playing rhythm guitar because Eric had moved over to bass at this time, right?
Yeah, the reason that happened was because, Dave was a rhythm player anyway. That's what Dave, in the Mods, that's what he did. So he played rhythm, and, when John left, we played 3-man. So Eric went to bass. So when Dave came back, I wrote Dave a letter.
Oh, really?
I said, "Dear Dave, everything's going good. We're in this band, and when you get back, you're going to be in it, And so he comes back, and joins the band as the rhythm player, and Eric stayed on bass. And we played that way for, that summer, because that fall, and we recorded the first album.
Okay.
And the first album, Dave was playing rhythm.
Right.
And Dave played bass. And actually, we recorded that album twice because the first time we recorded it, we sucked.
Really?
We were so nervous
because,
from our perspective, it's our first album. We're on Capitol Records.
Now,
that's the Beatles record label.
Sure, but didn't you guys came out and there was a bidding war for you guys, though, wasn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But before we recorded, yes, that's that summer.
Sure.
That summer, which had been 71.
71.
Yeah, the summer of 71. And I believe it was like June, something like that, early part of summer. We showcased the band at JB's in Kent in front of, I think it was Capitol, Columbia. 4 labels were there.
Really?
4 national labels were there in Kent.
Wow.
Come see us. Wow. And the reason that happened was because we, through some earlier records and recordings that Eric did with Cyrus Erie and I even think The Quick and some of that stuff, he made a couple of friends in New York, and we got to know Jimmy Einer. And Jimmy Einer was a guy that coordinated getting, because we did not have a manager yet.
Okay.
And so he kind of acted as our manager, sort of, and orchestrated those labels coming to Kent to see us play.
Yeah, because the A&R guys weren't coming to Cleveland.
No, but they came there, and it was really cool.
And Jimmy produced that.
He produced all our albums.
Everything. He would do all of them.
Yeah. Wow. And his brother Donnie, who became a huge, he was president of Sony for a long time. He was with us when we were in Europe. I got Super 8 movies of Donnie and I hanging around Nice, France, just making goofy movies and
that video I mentioned earlier where you said 9 songs or 10 songs.
Yeah.
There was 2 Your Home movies. This video was to Your Home movies from over there.
Well, when we did our reunion, in what was it? 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
First one.
Eric and I were talking about, how do we start this show? I mean, what do we do? We don't want to just come out and start.
Here we are.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like because we realized this is really special. You know, we wanted it to be special for us. We wanted it to be special for the fan base and everybody. So in conversation, we came up with the idea with Bernie, because Bernie's extremely creative, about like this little montage, we called it, you know. Well, then the question was, well, what do we do? Well, how do we make it? What do we use, you know? And I go, well, I got all these movies that nobody's ever seen of us on tour. Because when Barb and I got married in '71, I bought a movie camera.
Who had that back then?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. And I mean, I was just like, I always kind of like taking pictures, you know, and that was the beginning. So I had these movies, you know, there was no sound, but you know, it's of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, there was one I saw that you made. It's like Wally standing outside the tour bus, air guitar, and then his guitar shows up. Yeah, then he disappears.
Right. Yeah, all that goofy stuff. Yeah,
clever editing back then.
Yeah. So we used the montage, and I don't remember. I think it was me. But I can't be sure, because what we did was they started putting all this stuff in there we wanted to create a frenzy, you know. And as that montage went on, it got faster and faster, you know, and it finally ended with us. It was the camera view behind me when we did Midnight Special, you know, and.
Facing out behind you?
Yeah, facing out, but it was like looking down over my shoulder, and we were doing "I Want to Be With You" was the start. So it starts off on the montage with the song. The first hit is the montage, and then when it comes to the second one, it was real,
nice.
and that's how it segued. It was just
perfect.
It was so cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Perfect. Okay.
I'll get it in post.
Okay. We're to the reunion, but let's go back to the beginning.
Sorry, Rick and I are talking production and sound right now while they're talking very important information.
So you guys recorded your first album in Chicago? Is that where you recorded? Where did you record that first album?
The Raspberries?
Yeah.
New York. We did everything at Record Plant.
Okay.
In New York.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good place to record.
Yeah.
A couple albums came out of there.
Yeah. Couple people that are famous played there.
So the first album came out, and when did the single hit? I mean,
well, first single was "Don't Want to Say Goodbye,"
right?
And that came out.
Well, I might have it in my notes.
You can help me here. Help me here.
"Don't Want to Say Goodbye." It just says it peaked at 86 here, with "Rock and Roll Mama" as the backing.
Yeah, that was the flip side. So let me just think about when it was probably early in '72.
Okay.
Like you know,
it says
February,
early
March,
72 here,
somewhere. Okay. And again, it was like the label picked the song, and you know. I mean, we were just excited to have it.
Oh yeah!
I mean, and we liked the song. We didn't
Great
really,
song.
And so it came out, and then it didn't do real well. I mean, it kind of and then stopped. But they jumped right on it and put "I'll Go All the Way." I mean, it was like. There was no big lag time, and that song
rocketed.
That song
strapped the rocket to your guys' ass.
It's a freaking amazing
number 5. It went to number 5.
Yeah, it was 5, 4, and 3 because there were 3 labels.
Wow. Sure.
Or not. I mean, not 3 labels, but 3 trade magazines. Yeah. But and then all these years later, I mean, it was at Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's really it really took it off for you guys again.
Yeah, well,
it's a great song.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, again, it's like they say. Pete Townsend said he came up with the term power pop, and you guys kind of really did invent it. I mean, you guys took best of the Beatles, the Who,
and the Beach
Faces,
Boys.
the Beach Boys,
and
just put them in a big gumbo and made.
Yeah, the blend of that band was the Beatles, the Who, and the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
it was a lot of Beatles in structure and things
with the attitude of the Who,
the attitude
and the harmonies,
and the harmonies of the
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's how I see it in my head.
How it is, you know. And Eric was great at making harmonies, very melodic. He's a great writer, a great arranger. He just knows his stuff, So it was good. You know, it was good.
It seemed to be okay for you guys.
It's still amazing.
Yeah, it holds up to this day. I mean, that's how good it is.
One of my heart songs, one of the songs that every single time I hear it on the radio or someone's playing it, I turn it up. It's just one of those songs that it never gets old.
And back in at that time when you recorded, people, it was still about AM radio.
Sure.
You know? And so you mixed the thing for the record, but then they bring out this 6x9 speaker and you mixed it for the skip.
Yeah, you had one in the dash.
Yeah, that was the speaker that most people listened to their radio. They didn't have big stereo. I mean, it was the big 6x9 in the front and AM mono. And because it's like if that song, whoever song it is, doesn't stir enough to make you want to go and buy it, you lost. You lost.
Yeah. Got to catch them right away,
you have that moment, and that's what you got to do. So,
like they say, get us to the chorus and don't bore us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Man, what a great one. Great one.
So, I got to ask, whose idea was it to come out with the Scratch and Sniff? Was that the record label?
It was the label. Yeah.
Brilliant marketing. I mean, I still remember being a kid and scratching my dad's record. Yeah, and it smelled like a raspberry.
And those old stickers still have an odor to them.
Yeah, well, I checked Keith's out.
You checked mine.
It smells like must.
Yeah,
come on, it's a man scent you're thinking of.
But it was a brilliant marketing thing by the record label.
You knew when our record was in the store. You knew the album was in there.
I'm sure at that point you could smell it.
Oh, yeah, you
get close to ours.
You could just. You didn't even have to be that close. Yeah, you knew. Yeah, you knew.
Brilliant, though. I mean, okay, so you guys, now that record took off. What did the album peak at? Do you remember? I don't think
our albums did good.
Yeah.
They didn't do great. Mm-hmm. Okay. And most of that is because the label, this is the bad side of the label, didn't really market us correctly. They took us too much of a lightweight. There was a lot more in there, but at that time also was just the time when FM and albums were getting cut, and all that was kind of happening. That was a change in the music radio, and all that kind of stuff. So our albums did good. But like I said, they didn't do great, but we sold albums,
Absolutely.
But they also influenced such a huge...
Oh. Well, yeah. The influences you guys made.
Yes.
I mean...
The people you influenced.
It's funny because, when the band ultimately broke up, everybody's in a band, and... You were in a band that broke up, like the choir broke up. I mean, it was like, okay, it broke up, and that's what happened. And, you most likely will start another band with another bunch of people and stuff like that. So when the Raspberries broke up, we all kind of, it broke up, I mean, it's the end. And that was like 74-5 when it finally ended, we didn't realize what we had done.
Yes.
We did not, none of us, Eric and I certainly didn't. And, at that point, I played for a little bit, but in 77, I quit.
Okay.
I quit playing. I did have somebody with money and sold my drums that time.
So By that time, somebody had found some money to buy some drums.
So I stopped playing in 1977. So I kind of disconnected from all that, but I started to hear stuff,
Sure.
And, it's like you hear stuff and but as time went on and when we got to the reunion and all that, you really realize
And how does that feel? I mean, I'll never know. But how does that feel when you have people like Paul Stanley from Kiss or Bruce Springsteen, or you have people like Rainbow ripping you blatantly off with "Since You've Been Gone," and it's got to be amazing.
It is. I mean, I'm trying to find the right word.
Sure.
You feel like you made a mark. You left a footprint, which we all want to do it in some way. And I look at it like, wow, we just did it by doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's just what we were, you know. All of that wasn't like yes, Eric and I had talked about the band and wanted to do, but as it evolved, it started to take on its own life. You know?
But it wasn't an accident. You guys put the hours.
Oh no, it wasn't an accident. That's all I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, as time went on, the band evolved and the music started to come out, and you know, and all of that. But I mean, when you're sitting, from my thing, I'm sitting at BB King's in New York. We're playing, right, and I'm looking straight out. And sitting right out there, in clear view, is John Bon Jovi. Came to see the band. You know, I mean, it's like, and I'm playing, I'm thinking,
how cool is that? Right.
You know?
And he's thinking,
yeah.
right, you know?
I guess that's
Bon
possible.
Jovi, Bonfanti, you guys should be related.
Thing.
But I mean, and you know, and little Steven was there, and I mean, to have him rave about the band, it's I don't know what, you know, it's like.
Doesn't Bruce say that he listens to Raspberry albums to get inspired to write a new album?
He does. I mean, he has the River, the album The River.
Well, it's one of my favorites.
There's an article that I read somewhere where he goes into detail about that's what he was listening to in his truck. Which album it was.
I mean, you even had Motley Crue take one of your songs.
Yeah, Tonight.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like
that's generational.
But some of the bands that you know like us are like. They're like over here. We're like over here. You know what I mean? As far as styles. So yeah, it's. I guess humbling is the word.
That's good for you. You deserve it.
Yeah,
you deserve everything.
And it's really cool. It's really cool.
So we got the first album. Then we got the second album. You guys got a little bit away from, a little less ballady than the first album.
Right.
And that had some hits on it as well.
Yeah, I Want to Be With You was on.
Want to Be With You. I mean,
Let's Pretend.
Yep, another great song. And they both charted. I mean, they're both great songs.
I Want to Be With You did really well. Let's Pretend, I think, Let's Pretend was
35.
Like, I was going to say something like 20, 30, you know.
But that's still respectable.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's very respectable. And you know, but I think the best album that we did was Side 3.
Side 3 is a great album.
It's a great one.
That was as close to the band, and that's what I used to always say. That's how close it was with the band. But now I say it's pop art, you know, even though it's live versus recorded. But, you know, it's totally different. But that was a good album, Side 3. I love Side 3. Yeah.
And the die cut.
Yeah,
that's so cool too.
Yeah, I'm going to have you sign my Side 3 if you don't mind.
Okay, you guys were doing stuff Kiss did years later with the die cuts and scratch and sniff and
all that stuff.
It's brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
So fast forward past Side 3, Dave left, and then you left shortly thereafter.
Well, what happened was they fired Dave, and I quit.
Okay.
Because Jimmy flew me to New York because he knew Dave and I were best friends.
Sure.
And Eric and Dave were having issues, and Jimmy said, you know, this is what's going on, and and I said, he goes, we don't want you to quit the band, you know, and I said, well, if you fire Dave, I'll quit. I mean, that's what I'm going to do, you know, and they fired Dave, and I quit.
It's loyalty to your friend.
Yeah, and that was that, you know. You know, when you think back, was it a good move, bad move? I don't know.
Who's to say?
I don't really. Well, the problem is, you know, if you just think about it for a moment, you think, oh, you should have stayed. You know, well, the band was crumbling already.
Yeah, it was.
You know, by then, because after I left, you know, Wally and Eric were just at each other, and it just self-destructed. So the reality is, I don't really know that it would have lasted any longer than it lasted.
You probably went out on a good note. I mean, that last album with Starting Over was, I mean, I have the album. I like the album. But
there's some good songs on there.
Some really cool ones on there.
Like Overnight Sensation was on there. And I really, when we did the reunion, I loved playing it. I mean, I was like, you know, there were certain songs on that album when I heard, I thought, I would love
There's one that's totally
Play On was pretty cool rocker that I think was Scott McCall.
Scott wrote it. Yeah, Scott and Eric wrote it.
In Rose-Colored Glasses.
Yeah. What's the one that's totally the Who ripoff? sounding thing.
That's I don't know what I want.
Yeah,
which was
God,
another
great
fun
song.
Another
It's
song.
still a fun song to play, though.
I loved playing that when we was in the set list for a reunion. I loved playing that.
Well, you love. I mean, those fills.
That thing was like
you're known for
that song was
It's
like
right up your
that
alley.
was for me. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
They wrote it for you. Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
But I will say, I used to work with Wally, and he had told me when they were recording Overnight Sensation that John Lennon was there. I know it's always been rumored that he helped produce it or whatever.
Well, he had a
But
raspberry
said-
sweatshirt on.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But he was actually in there.
He was in the studio. Actually, the Beatles had a Mellotron there. I wasn't there, obviously, but
Right.
Eric told me that he came up stairs somewhere and he was playing around with it, and John came up. He said to Eric, had talked to Eric about it, I mean, so yeah, he was there. He didn't help produce it, but he was there. He was, but because he did some stuff at Record Plant too, and he happened to be there at that same time. The picture with the sweatshirt came from May Pang, which is John's
The Lost Weekend.
Yeah, the Lost Weekend. I can't wait for that to come on. I want to watch it.
Right.
And May Pang was on our show too. And
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So I mean,
Awesome.
it's hard to.
How do you concentrate with those people?
Well, but I mean, it's
How does
like,
your head not explode?
yeah,
I mean, mine would have.
It's like, yeah, I mean, here, May Pang is here. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Wow. Anyway, she gave us that picture, which was from her private collection when her and John were a thing, with that sweatshirt on.
Yeah.
And she told us, John only wore T-shirts and or sweatshirts of bands he really liked.
Wow.
Which is like...
Hello?
Yeah. So when we did side 3... No, I mean, not side 3, Sunset Strip.
Okay.
We used that picture because they said, what do you want to write for liner notes? Well, we had Bruce Springsteen write a paragraph. Okay.
crazy.
Might have
Which was
heard of
cool. And we
He's had a couple hits.
we put the picture of John with this thing on, and Eric and I both felt like there's not much else you need to say or do.
No,
And pretty much
you've got it settled right there.
there it is. That's that.
That's top of the list right there, kids.
But yeah, so that was. I remember when I first saw it. We were at there's a little bar by Hillcrest Hospital. I think
Cork and Bottle?
Cork and
Yes,
Bottle.
yeah, right there. It's still there. I'm sure it's still there.
Great burgers.
We were there for
Great jukebox
like a
at one point.
party or something, a birthday party for somebody. I don't remember, but we were both there. And Eric says, "Come on, I want to show you something." So we go outside of the car, and he shows me this picture. He doesn't say anything. And I just looked at it. I was like,
Yeah, there was no Photoshop back then, kids.
no, right. I mean, I knew it was real, and it was like, I'm like, wow.
How cool is
Yeah.
that? When your heroes are wearing your T-shirt.
Oh my God.
I mean,
Oh my God. I mean, it was like, wow. So
how cool. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just... Wow. I mean, so you were in the band, basically. The Raspberries were around for, what, 4 years?
yeah, 4 years.
And you were 3 out. I mean, you guys cranked out material.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no time to, like, enjoy it because...
Well, those first two were both 1972, right?
Yes, yeah, because no,
No, 72 and 73.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. The first
My
album
bad.
we recorded in '71
So
because
2 albums in
okay.
73.
yeah.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
71 was the first one because I was in New York on my first anniversary.
Oh, right on.
Barb doesn't forget that.
How could you?
So you guys lived a whirlwind life. I mean, for like solid 4 years, just
Yeah.
touring and records and interviews. And I mean,
We did a lot.
so you couldn't sit back and enjoy it because you were in it. You're in the middle of the storm.
We were in it, yeah.
I mean,
And that's technically, it's a small amount of time
Yeah.
to put out such great music that influenced so many people. I mean, Hendrix was the same way. What was he,
Yeah.
2-3 years?
Not
I mean,
very
look
long.
at Kiss's first 4 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just every 8 months there was a new album.
Yeah.
But man, wow, that's great. What a story.
So you went through a whirlwind. You left the band. You stopped playing in '77. You came back to regular life for a little while.
Yeah, a long while.
Well, you did join some cover bands and
Not until, from 77 until 1992.
no kidding.
I did not own a set of drums or play any music.
Wow. You didn't get the itch at all.
Nope. No, I was raising my family and,
Sure.
and
Is this when you got into photography?
I've always,
Dabbled.
because of the movies,
Sure.
because I've always kind of had a fascination with it. But, then and the way that went is my wife and I, Barb, were at a bowling banquet. She bowled on a league, and the band that was playing at the banquet, there was a friend of mine that I'd known for many, Ralph Cuda.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, it looks like Ralph, I said to Barb, but I hadn't seen him in a while.
Sure.
So he asked me to come up and sit in, which I had done over the years, different things, However, on that particular day, when I went up to play, I thought that I played really bad. I mean,
we all are our worst critics.
Yes.
Well, you usually do play really bad.
Shut up, Scott.
That's true.
Nobody likes you.
But I mean, I just wasn't happy at all. I mean, I came back to the table and I said to Barb, I go, I can't do this anymore. I made a decision. I either got to get a set of drums and at least get myself to a point where if someone asked me to sit in, I at least feel like I was okay. I said, because if one person walked out of that room and said, gee, I thought he was better than that.
Yeah.
I said, I'd be crushed.
Yeah,
I said,
I get that.
I said, so I either get a set of drums and practice a little bit so that I could be, reasonable, or I'm never playing again. I said, I will not pick up sticks again. I won't do it. So I bought a set of drums out of the paper and practiced on them a little bit and, messed around. And that led to when Scott McCarl, who put out, what's the name of his CD? He put out a CD,
He did.
CD.
He put out a solo album, and it's not available on vinyl.
Yeah.
That's why I don't
Yeah,
have
so it was a solo CD, and he wanted to come to Cleveland and play. And he wanted to know if Dave and I would play on his show. And so Dave lived in Arizona at the time, and I was out visiting Dave. So we went to L.A. and met with Scott.
Okay.
And I never met Scott until that day. I did, I never saw him. And we decided, yeah, it'd be kind of fun. And I was thinking, I'm kind of glad I got those drums now because, But anyway, I said, but the only thing is, I was adamant about it. This isn't a Raspberries reunion. We're playing with you for your thing. This is not the Raspberries anyway, because Eric wasn't there.
Sure.
So we did it at the Odeon, and it was a lot of fun, actually, how we did it. And so I kind of got my interest peaked again about
You got
playing.
the itch again,
a
didn't
little
you?
bit. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, you know? I wasn't sure exactly, do I really
direction?
want to play? This was fun, but let's let this settle a little bit because, it was like, the honeymoon,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Kind of, So I decided that, I kind of had a little fun with it. And then David Spiro kind of put together
Sweet fella.
an idea of us getting back together, which was around 2000. The thing with Scott happened in
95, 96?
No, I thought it was 98.
I think it was 98.
I think it was 98.
Yeah, I want to say
anyway,
98.
so like a couple of years later, we talked about that, and that never materialized.
Okay.
We rehearsed at the heck's that studio? It was down by where the Duagora was, Metro.
The New Agora?
Yeah, I know
what you're
by
talking about.
55th and Euclid, but there was a studio in there, and we rehearsed. We didn't rehearse. We went down and just played together for the first time.
What, the Raspberries?
Yes, the original Raspberry.
Wow.
And because we were thinking about doing this reunion then, and it never happened.
No, Dave was still in Arizona at the time, though.
No, but he was here.
Okay,
He came here to do this.
Carl.
We were all here. So that blew up, and then one day my phone rings at home, and it's Anthony Nicolaitis, who was the agent for the new House of Blues that was going to open in Cleveland. And he tells me about the House of Blues, yeah. He goes, and I'd like the Raspberries to open it. I go, my words, I go, I'm not sure if that's possible. I said, I don't really know.
Sure.
I says, but I'll ask the question. I mean, I will see. I said, but in my mind, I thought, not
Ain't happening.
Not a chance,
Who was the first one you go to?
Eric. I go to Eric and I go, they want us to put the band back. Like the Blues Brothers, hey, they want us to put the band back together. Yeah. They want us to put the band back together, and they want us to open this House of Blues. And we talked about, they got great in-house sound, great in-house lights. And we were like, well, if we were ever going to try to do this would be like the place to do it. You're not going to be like at the Utopia or something, or whatever. Right. So that's what started it. And I went and talked to everybody. Talked to Wally, talked to Dave, and we decided we were going to do it, which surprised the hell out of me. I mean, I truly didn't think there was a chance. I didn't. But so we did, and we started to rehearse in September.
Now, you guys rehearsed the old Utopia on Euclid Avenue.
I was going to say, well, it was closed, but we rehearsed.
I think it's a funeral home now.
It is now. But that was another thing where we didn't have a place to rehearse. Sure. And how did we find that? Oh, a friend of ours that we got to know who used to help Barb with her breast cancer benefit. Okay. Owns property, and it was one of the owners in some of the restaurants in Willoughby. Anyway, they owned that building. Their management company, and there was a guy in there doing auctions on Saturdays, and they gave us space there, and it was really, I forget what it cost us, not much, and it was perfect because we could set up, because we didn't want anybody to know where we were. We wanted to just be quiet and let's just do our thing. And then we rehearsed there quite a bit, even after that show.
Was Panini's there next door at the time?
Yeah. We would go over
imagine going to Panini's in here. Hey, it sounds like the frickin' Raspberries next door.
Yeah.
That's a booming system.
Because we'd go over there then, and when we were done, usually have a beer or whatever like that. But so that's where we rehearsed, and again, it was like perfect. It was perfect, and
stars aligned.
Yeah, believe me, they did. Believe me, they did.
Yeah, it was catching lightning in a bottle to get you four together again. Yeah. So 2004, you guys opened the new House of Blues.
Yep, we did.
To what? I mean, it sold out in 30 seconds?
In like 4 minutes or something. I know. That was the other thing that blew me away. I was like, really? I mean, I didn't think we'd have a hard time selling tickets, but I didn't expect that.
Right.
I did not. None of us did. So that all worked good, and we did several House of Blues, and we played from 2004 through 2005. Mm-hmm. And we did, we were in Chicago, we were there, we were in Denver, we were in LA. Sure. I forget wherever else. We did like 8 cities or something like that.
Around that time, I remember seeing on VH1 Classic.
We did that with Eddie Trunk.
Eddie Trunk did a evening with the Raspberry or something of that nature.
Yeah. Here's a guy. You talk about the Rock Hall. Here's a guy that is on record as saying that the only reason he's in rock and roll was he was in the back seat of his dad's and mother's Oldsmobile when Go All the Way came on, and that's what started him on the career that he had. No kidding. And we still can't get in the Rock Hall.
You hear that?
You
see that? Get this man in the Rock Hall.
So anyway, but yeah, we did that. That was kind of cool because we did like unplugged versions of some of the songs.
Yeah, so unplugged version of Nobody Knows, which was amazing.
That was fun. And we did. That's when we did BB King's. We were there to do BB King's. That was in July of 2005. Okay. And we did a couple shows there. But anyway, so we did that bunch of shows. Then we didn't play again, and then we played.
Now, did you have Billy Sullivan?
Yes.
And did you have Teresa Rose?
No, Jennifer Lee, Billy, and Paul Sidoti.
Paul Sidoti.
Were the
Taylor Swift's guitar player.
Yeah, he's their lead player. But it was funny because as we were coming to the end of our run, he was telling, he goes, because he was living in Nashville. He goes, I'm auditioning for this young girl that's coming out, Taylor Swift. He was telling us all.
Never heard of her.
She was like, at the time, I think she was 17 or
She was in the country back then.
Yeah,
too.
she was.
All country,
I thought she wrote some great songs then.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Whatever happened to that girl?
Who knows?
One of Rick's favorites.
Yeah. Anyway, so, we played in that bunch of years. We did some stuff at 2007, and we did some stuff like around 2009. We did, and that was the end. We did the thing at the Rock Hall, and that was the end of all that. Now we released Pop Art.
Pop Art is
You know,
an amazing album.
so
Go
good.
pick that up.
It's
if you
the
have
best.
not.
It's the
And get
best.
it on vinyl.
Yeah.
'Cause once it's
there's
gone,
only
it's
so
gone.
many of those. I'm not sure they have any vinyl left. I don't know, but
I got mine.
did you
I got
recently?
mine.
Multicolored. No.
Oh, that's what I mean.
After it came out.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I
Yeah.
bought it immediately.
Yeah, I don't know how many they have, if they have any of those left, but
I was
but
at-
the CD is around, you know.
I was at the record store this afternoon, actually, and they told me once the Raspberry stuff's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know.
So,
It goes
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, so-
and it's hard to find in the wild if you're a vinyl hunter.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't, and if you do
Unless you wanna
find
pay.
one, if you do find one, it's beat the hell because
Yeah.
people played the living
Yeah.
crap out of it.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate enough to have some really good copies.
That's
So
good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have mine as well.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I love all my Raspberry records. I don't know where mine went, but it's around here somewhere.
eBay.
It's over there.
eBay.
eBay. That's it. I want to get one with the scented sticker, though.
because he signed it, that's why it said eBay. Smart.
Yeah.
Mine are never leaving this house. So
Well, we did talk about how you guys got a big resurgence in 2014 thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
movie. And that had to be a great kick for you guys.
It was, many ways.
Hey, I'm saying
for you, and you deserve all of it.
Yeah. Well, I saw this in July of '95. You, Wally, performed with Jerry Lee Lewis and Bobby Womack
Oh, that was, me and Wall, yeah.
and Dale Peters and Michael Stanley.
Oh, yeah, that was the Cleveland All-Stars. That was the Top the Rock ceremony for the Rock Hall.
yeah.
Yeah, and they placed the last beam. And,
No kidding.
and, yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis, he actually sat on my drum stool.
Really?
Yeah, and
wasn't nice.
because
Killer.
but yeah, that was fun. And,
Yeah, I can imagine. That'd be kinda cool.
Gilby Clark was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another Cleveland guy.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that was pretty cool. And that's when I said before, so I got those drums and I wasn't sure, like that was before we did the thing with Scott, but had I not gotten the drums, and I would not have done any of that. None of that would have probably happened.
If it wasn't for that bowling alley.
If it wasn't for that banquet. Yeah. I mean, because that's what caused me to do it. And to do any of that without having any drums or played it wouldn't have been possible.
Look at that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
It's weird how everything works out.
Yeah,
it
I mean,
really
it's
is.
just like so. Yeah. So.
I also read this. You got to confirm this.
Okay.
Prior to joining the James Gang, Joe Walsh was a third member of Pie.
Yes.
With Phil
G. Lombardo.
Thank you, and you.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. We had a 3-piece band. As a matter of fact, Barb and I would go. Joe lived in Kent with his wife, and we would go down on like Sunday evening. I don't know, 6 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Pick up Joe, and Barb and I and Joe would come up to Cleveland, and in the basement of the Stadler Hilton was a place called Otto's Grotto.
I remember hearing about Otto's Grotto.
Otto's Grotto brought in regional bands, from Flit and different places, and really good bands in there. And we would go there and hang, And then Barb and I would drive Joe back to Kent,
It's a long day.
Yeah, and that, yeah. So yeah, we did it. And so then Joe and Jimmy weren't getting along, so Joe quit. He was in the James Gang. He quit. And Joe and I and Phil started this band called Pie, and Phil played bass with the pedals of the Hammond.
Okay.
And Joe and me, right?
Wow.
And so, but we were in that. We only played out one time, and we played at Chestnut and
Imagine being
Hullabaloo.
at that gig.
Yeah, Chestnut and Hullabaloo, because we didn't play out, so we couldn't buy a PA, and because we didn't have a PA, we couldn't play out. We were in that circle,
Yeah.
And so we practiced it and worked up some of the songs that Joe put on the first James Gang album.
Okay.
The first one they got, because Joe went back to the James Gang.
Sure.
And the rest is
album.
history. Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's one of my favorites of all time.
Joe, if you're watching, give us a call.
Yeah.
We'll get you on
We'd
the
like to get
podcast.
you in this seat.
We'll get you hundreds of views, bro.
Yeah.
At least 50.
Yeah.
But you also played with Kevin Raleigh from
Yeah.
Michael Stanley Band.
Yeah, Kevin, and so that band was called. Well, it was Dynamite. When I quit the Raspberries, and with Dave, we formed a band called Dynamite, which was like my least favorite
in honor to J.J. Walker.
Yeah, but it was my least favorite band. It was missing parts.
Okay.
You know, and so it evolved though.
Sure.
Thank God. It evolved into Windfall, which was Kevin, myself, Tom Hunter, who played bass in a band called Rain at the time. Okay. Dennis Stredney, who was lead player for Freeport, that played with Kevin, and then we imported a friend from Pittsburgh named Pete Hewlett, who ended up Pete ended up in the first Eric Carmen band. Eric stole him from me. A tit for a tat, you know, that's how it went. So Eric got Pete. Pete played with Eric. Pete also sang on "There's No Surf in Cleveland."
Another classic.
That's Pete.
That 45.
Yeah, there's that Pete. And he also toured with, I toured with a lot of different people, Carly Simon, yabba, yabba, yabba. But the one he did the most with was Billy Joel. Very good friend with Billy Joel.
I've heard of him.
Did all of that, all his touring stuff.
Wow.
We saw him at the, he went to Europe when he went over to Russia and all that.
Oh, man.
He did all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with Pete. Pete's an amazing singer, a freaking amazing singer.
Really?
Oh my God, he's so good. Yeah, he is so good. So he has a little duet now in Pittsburgh. And he plays around.
That's awesome.
And but that was Windfall, and that's where Kevin was.
Okay.
And then to take that one step further, so Pete, let me think now, who was in there? No, so Pete left because Eric stole him. And so Kevin and I and the Balzer brothers, Greg and Bruce Balzer, and Greg Holt, who played bass in Freeport, had a band called Pictures.
Okay.
And Pictures was the last band I played in. That's when I quit.
Okay.
We were,
you had your fill.
We were at another band meeting at Kevin's house, and I just was sitting there thinking, you know, I think I was like 27 then, 26 or 7, maybe 27, and I'm thinking there as we're all talking about what we're going to do. And I'm thinking, well, I just bought our first house. I had my first daughter. I'm not making any money, you know. And I'm thinking,
priorities.
If I don't make a change here, my whole life could just go down the toilet.
Sure.
You know, because there's a point of no return, you know.
Absolutely.
And I just didn't want that, you know. As much as I wanted to play, I was just done, you know. I got up from the meeting. I grabbed Barb's hand, went out in the car. We started driving down the road, and I tell her, I'm quitting. She goes, what, you're quitting the band? I go, no, I'm quitting. Wow. I'm quitting music. I'm done.
Wow.
That's what I told her. I said, I am done. And I sold my drums, which is another little story. I sold my drums to a guy, and I got a job, and I ended up in the car business, you know, which actually, you know, it's like the least likely spot I would have ever figured.
Right.
But I've told people, I go, you know, I'm pretty lucky. I go, I've basically done 2 careers in my life, music and cars. I says, and I'm happy to say I really like them both. They're totally different.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
but I really like them both. You
Both
know?
will let you down on the freeway.
Yeah. A quick side story of the drums. So I sell those drums in 1977. So I bought those other drums in 92, and then for whatever reason, again, it's like one of those things. Whatever reason, somewhere around 95 or something, I wonder, Barb, I wonder where my old drums are. I wonder if they're still around. I'd like to buy them back. So the guy that helped me sell them, a friend of mine, Ralph, we tracked the guy back down. He lived down by Akron somewhere still. He still had them. All this time, he still had. That was the luckiest part. So he still has them. Now they were in dire straits. They'd been through a flood. They looked like hell. But I went down to his house, you know, with the intent of buying them back. You know, he goes, "You don't have to buy them back." He says, "I'll give them to you." Wow. He says, "You have a lot of sentimental value." But he didn't have everything. He had all the drums, though. Okay, so that's the rest of his, you know, whatever hardware was mounted, he had. But you know, the cymbal stands I sold with him, they were gone. But he had all of the drums, and boy, they were terrible. You know, and so. Dale Flanagan, who has Fortune drums, we resurrected them, and what they were when I had them was it was a hand-picked drum set that I put together in 72 that I recorded side 3 with these drums. And they were special sizes. There wasn't anything like, in the catalog. I had a different rack tom sizes, 24-inch bass, and all. Anyway, I loved those drums because prior to that...
What brand were they?
Ludwig. I played all Ludwig forever. And so, anyway, so we recover them. They didn't make the chrome laminate anymore, which was actually a metal laminate.
Really?
No, they didn't make it. And it couldn't leave it alone because it was all rusty and everything. So we did Mylar.
Okay.
And they looked like they looked.
Sure.
Problem is the Mylar and the glue and the shell didn't like each other. So if the temperature got to like 75 degrees, it would lift.
Bubble up.
Yeah. So we ended up. I said, let's just make them marine white pearl because I always liked that color.
Sure.
And those are the drums I use in all reunion shows.
No kidding.
That's what I recorded pop art with. All that stuff.
They sound amazing.
Same drums. Same drums, which I in the end donated to the Rock Hall, and that's where they are.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, that's where they are.
Wow.
So
see Rock Hall?
Yeah.
Get this man in the Rock Hall.
yeah, I'm trying. So that's
What else has he got to do? He gave you your drums for crying out loud.
Yeah, free drums.
I know Wally gave him a double neck Gibson.
He didn't give it to him. He let
them borrow it.
Yeah, no, Wally's not giving that to anyone.
Well, he also said they cracked the neck at one point too. So
they might have. But he used that. But he used all those guitars that Wally used on that reunion stuff were all the original guitars we recorded the songs with.
The Rickenbacker, the
double neck, the V, all those were the same guitars.
Awesome.
Those guitars are worth some money.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That double neck, he bought it in '67.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before Jimmy Page decided to rip him off.
67 he bought that.
I got you.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the long and the short of it.
But now,
Wait a minute.
we're not done because you are now playing in a great band called Abbey Rodeo,
That's right.
and you guys play out around the area.
Playing a lot in Lake County, and we get out to the west side a little bit.
Yeah.
But
So
mostly
you're
in
still
east side.
playing. You
Yes,
still
I am.
got it in you. You still go out there and
I
have
still
fun.
enjoy it. It's a fun band, and turned into be a really good band.
Yeah.
And
you guys have been around for a while too.
Yeah, that band. Well, the band is together long before I joined it. I mean, matter of fact, in May they're celebrating a 20-year anniversary. I mean, I said to them one time we were at practice, and this was like maybe I don't even remember exactly how long. I think I'm in the band 6 years now, maybe 7 coming up. Anyway, I said to them, I go, yeah, I'm not used to be in bands that are that around that long.
So you've been in them longer than the Raspberries.
Yeah, that's true.
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, but it's true. Yeah.
My current band's been together almost 15 years.
That's what I mean. It's like, how does that happen? Because
I don't know.
You're lucky. Because
And we're going on our 7th year.
yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
No.
It isn't. You have to have the right
You have to have the
combination
right-
and the right attitude, and it's like, I think I would hope anyway, as we all get older, you get a little smarter, and you realize.
I'm waiting.
I'm only using half a brain, so.
But I mean, yeah, that's right. You're saving half. But I
I'm
mean, it's like,
saving
I think a lot of that has to do with it when you're, in bands like in the beginning when you were 20, you got egos and you got crap going on like you can't even relate to, But I mean, but it's still good. I mean, it's fun to be with them. I like playing, and we even do 2 Raspberry songs.
Do you?
Yes, we do.
Which two do we do?
We do I Want to Be With You, and Nobody Knows.
Great
Wow.
song.
So,
2 classics.
yeah.
All right. When I listen to you, I listen to Ringo Starr meets Keith Moon. I mean, that's basically what you are.
That's
With his own
With a little
flair.
John Bonham mixed
With a little
in.
bit of his own flair.
It's funny
With
you
his own
mentioned that
flair, though.
because I've said to people, I said, who are your influences? I get that all the time. I go, well, obviously Ringo Starr is my number one influence. And Ringo is because of his how he played. Yeah, the fills and the parts and all of that, He always played the right part. Obviously Keith Moon, because I just love Keith Moon.
A lot of your fills are very Keith Moon.
Yeah, I met him, saw them. It's just,
Was he as crazy?
yeah, oh God.
Sweet fella, but just a little nuts.
Yeah,
Dear boy.
But so there's that. And then John Bonham is another influence. And the reason I like John Bonham, and if you listen to him, you'll know, he doesn't do what you expect him to play. You know, he'll play like most people go. He'll be like, you know, whatever. You know, it's always
Throws a little,
and he's very syncopated, and you know. So I love, you know, and that's it's very solid.
Man.
Yeah, very solid, big drum sound. You know, but I mean, my two main people, obviously Ringo and Keith. I mean, that's
and it definitely shows in your playing, which is awesome.
Well, and then you always add your own little flair.
Well, of course, you take that. You take what you draw from, and you mold your own style.
Yeah.
But that's where the influences come from, you know. So
yeah, but if you listen to those Raspberry records, pay attention to those drums.
Yeah,
it's not.
You might not hear the kick, but they're really good.
On Power Pop, you will.
Yeah.
Pop Art, I mean.
Pop Art. You'll hear it on Pop Art.
Yeah.
Great album.
But
cool.
I think we're good. I think we're done. Rick, are you happy with that?
Can I go home now?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
We need one of those things.
All right. I think we hit it all.
I think we carried quite a bit of information through this.
Okay.
And I want to say Jim, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Cool.
We had a great time with
so much.
This man's a legend.
Such a pleasure.
And he's spending time with these dummies.
Oh.
Yeah. He could have done something way better tonight.
Yeah, like stare at the wall.
Oh, watch the paint dry.
Yeah.
Anyway, for Stairway to Cleveland, that's Keith.
That's Scott.
I'm Jim.
And there's Jim.
And we'll see you next time right here. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Hey, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends.
And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Show us your tweets. Ooh.